Hello, welcome Cornwall. My name's Andy Paramore. This is Andy's Cornish Creations, and in this video I'm going to be carving a hillbilly figure, 5 inches tall. The piece of basswood is 2 inches by 2 inches. And I got the picture off Pinterest, which is where I get a lot of my ideas from, and generally I just sort of change them a bit, but I'm going to copy this one as close as I can get. And I've managed to find a few different images from the front, back and sides that I can use to do the carving. Okay, first of all, although I'm calling this a tutorial, this is just the way that I carve, and it's safe for me, and you can only be you have to be responsible for your own safety, and obviously keep things as safe as possible. But this is just the way that I do it. So that out of the way. Some of the essentials that I think I do use one of these. Get in the picture. It's a leather thumb guard, and these are great things. These, because what I tend to do is a lot of push cuts. So I'm pushing on the back of the blade all the time, and I do tend to get a sore thumb, and I think it's, especially when you're sort of learning, it's because it takes quite a bit of force to push, and it can give you a sore thumb, and the leather thumb guard does help a lot. And that's you can get that off Amazon and eBay, I think, or any carving shop. We don't tend to have those in UK, but I know you do have in America. And the next thing is a cut glove. Now these don't stop everything, but it will stop glancing blows. And I still wear the thumb guard underneath and the glove on top, and I wear both pairs because you never know. And I do like the ones with the rubbery palms. Because I've tried the others that are like this all over, and I do tend to find that the knife slips around in my fingers, and that's not particularly safe either. The next thing is the knife. It's a Mora 120. It's got a bit of a large blade, but I tend to find it's pretty good. And you can just use the end for some of the smaller details. I do have some Robert Sorby chisels, one V tool, which is great for the hair and putting in some of the lines and things. I've got a Sorby, I think it's a 3mm gouge, which is really nice, and I've got a Henry Taylor set that's actually quite a nice set. I think there's 5 of them in all, which are those. A couple of straight ones, a skewed one, a slopey one, and another gouge there, 2 gouges. And they're actually quite a nice set, and then quite inexpensive. Then I've got the green polishing compound and leather strop that you put the polishing compound on, strop your knife on, and then the back is just for fine finishing. Okay, that's the tools. So we'll get on with it, shall we? Okay, you can see here I've got my block, which is 5 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches, basswood I've already drawn on the design, and this is what I want to try and do. I haven't done this figure before, and I could just draw it on by hand, but to save time, what I tend to do is to get it on the computer and print it out in the size of the block. So basically I can put it on the block, and either you could trace it on. What I tend to do is I just fold it over, take some of the measurements, where the hat is, the nose, moustache, beard, trousers and feet, that kind of thing. Where the angle of the hat comes down, I take that dimension, put it on the back, and back of the trousers, and the crease there where his backside is, and then just join those up. So it just saves a bit of time. Right, I've got the Mora knife, which is a bit bigger for roughing some of this material off, because I want to round off round where the hat is. Just take some of the bulk of the material off. Got my cut gloves on. Doesn't matter how careful you are, it's so easy to slip. Just go around and take all the corners off. You will lose some of your lines, but you can always just draw them in again. And we'll be bringing everything into some kind of a point here where the top of the hat is. So we've got a lot of material to take away.
You probably notice here I'm bringing the knife down into the wood at the brim of the hat and giving it a scooping motion. So I'm scooping out the bottom and then coming up towards the top of the hat, just to give it a bit of shape.
Using a pivoting action, so I get my thumb behind it and just pull that round in with that motion, and it has quite a lot of force, but it's still controlled.
I'm just working round and round the hat.
What you don't want to be doing is
just developing the shape.
Jabbing about like that. You always want to know exactly where the blade's going to finish up. So I'll just draw some of those lines back so that we keep those reference points. We'll start taking some of this down.
The bit of noise that you can hear at the base of the hat is where it's cutting through end grain. It's a little bit harder, but with a nice sharp knife it's not a problem with basswood. This is where you can tell the difference between having a sharp knife and not, when you start cutting across end grain. It shouldn't be too difficult if the knife's sharp, but if it's not sharp, all it will do is keep digging in and not giving you those nice clean cuts. Just going round the brim of the hat, just rounding off everything, because it's easy to do now.
The hat at the back comes to a bit of a point there, which I want to try and
Now, since I've put those lines on, I'm just bringing the
square from above.
top of the
So we'll just give it
rim back down to the lines, because as you
around the rim before we start.
as you cut those, cut it off to make it round, you're actually raising the rim slightly if you keep going with that.
Bring the hat over
cut.
so it's not flat on the top.
So just taking it back down to where the lines are and scooping it out just to give it a bit of shape. I'm just taking the sharp edges off now. This material will have to be removed later, so I'll do it now, and it's a lot nicer to handle with it a bit rounded. See that the hat at the back comes it sort of comes to a bit of a point there, which I want to try and copy. So I've got I do tend to have center lines on while I'm working, and try and keep them going. See, I've got one at the front there as well. The cut I'm using here
Just helps to keep it balanced if you always work.
Is a stop cut, but I tend to bring the top down at a bit of an angle. The stop cut really goes straight in and then cut up to it, but rather than doing that, I tend to come in down at a bit of an angle, then come up to that and then develop it into a stop cut. So the next cut after that would be straight in and up to it. I just find it a bit safer than going straight in, and easier as well. And it just comes out easier if it's a V rather than a straight in and up to it.
Don't worry too much about losing drawing. Put that in again.
And then it's just a case of working all the way around carefully.
Right, I'm just going to put a bit of an edge on the knife. Strong.
You apply a decent amount of pressure here and try and keep the knife at the same angle. Don't roll the knife. And then put it on the back of the strop just to fine tune that edge. You shouldn't really need to grind the knife at all unless you damage it. I'm just really careful. Okay, now we'll start undercutting the hat. Don't worry too much about losing the drawing, we can always put that in again. Right, I'm just going to put a bit of an edge on the knife with the strop.
You shouldn't really need to grind the knife at all unless you damage it. I'm always really careful not to put the knife anywhere where it might get any dings on it or anything, or dropping it on a concrete floor or something like that. It takes a long time to get the edge just right, and a fraction of a second to ruin it.
And just keep working all the way around and trying to keep that cut under the hat nice and clean as it comes up.
Yeah, there we've got the roughly the shape. Now you can see from the drawing or the picture that the guy's head is only sort of this width. It's not the full width of the piece of wood, and probably the widest point on his body is where the elbows stick out, which is about that kind of point. So what we can do is to take some of this bulk of material off here, and we'll maintain this center line as a reference, but we can take some of the material off because there's no point in starting to try and put fine detail in when it needs taking back a long way. Same with the back. The hat's probably the widest point, and top of his trousers as well, so we can take off some of this. It'll probably come back here to his shoes, and then back here with his hair, and his top of his trousers just about there. So we can take some of this material off just to start to form the shape. Hold the knife the right way round. That was a good idea. Okay, so that's one side. I'll repeat the same on the other side, but I'll switch the camera off for a minute, do that and then come back. Right, so we've worked that around. I think we'll create his nose. So we've got that central line.
Again, we're using the stop cut to cut around his nose and leave the nose raised from the rest of the wood. Just taking a couple of cuts to take the sides of the nose up slightly, because the bottom of the nose isn't completely flat. Take those up at an angle. You have to be a little bit careful here, because the grain of the wood is just wanting to take off bigger pieces than you want to, so you have to be a little bit careful and just watch where the grain of the wood's going. Keep popping that centre line in. And just using a gouge to go up the side of the nose. You can do this with a knife, but I like to I just find it have a little bit more control when with the gouge. just tidy it up a bit with a knife. And well, we're just over 42 minutes now, so I think we'll call it a day for part 1, and we'll come back in part 2 and carry on. Hope you enjoyed it. Well done if you've got this far, and if you haven't already subscribed, if you would do, that'd be great. Leave me a comment, give it the thumbs up, and it'll not be too long before I bring part 2 out, so I'll see you then. From Andy's Cornish Creations in Cornwall. See you next time. Thanks.